Hello, my name is Lynn, and welcome back to my channel or whatever. It's like late o'clock at night, but I am filming an audiobook version of this book called Poem Hood, Our Black Revival, and I'm filming it for, it doesn't matter in this video. I'll give context in the audio book version. I'm not finished with it, but I did want to share this introduction, and then I wanted to share another passage from a separate book that I'm reading. And so, yeah. Poem Hood, Our Black Revival is a celebration, a homage to the beauty and musicality of Black poetry, folklore, and history. We often hear stories about Zeus, Hades, Rapunzel, or Cinderella, and nothing about Ananisa, Adze, or John Henry, the man who hammered through a mountain faster than a drill. This exclusivity of story is also found in the poetry that is taught. Robert Frost and Edgar Allan Poe are serious poets who must be included in all curricula. We see these discrepancies in how valuable certain genres of music are. Bob Dylan is a poet and Tupac was just making a bunch of noise. Black art, Black music, and Black culture are not given their flowers. And Poem Hood, Our Black Revival, attempts to highlight the brilliance and diversity of the Black experience. Sidebar, I have a video that I uploaded almost a year ago called The Black Experience, so check that out if you haven't. This collection also lights a candle to and for the brilliant Black poets who are now ancestors. By placing poems written 60 years ago beside poems written today, words are able to reach across time and converse on the page. Poem Hood, Our Black Revival, weaves together a patchwork of quilt of poetry that highlights and celebrates the Black experience, old and new. These poets and poems speak to the eclectic Black experience and emphasize how it is not a monolithic culture, as is often taught in schools, which means that basically, nigga, we got layers, nigga. You feel me? They be trying to act like all niggas is one type nigga and niggas is people. So expression and experiences may vary. Fuck. Yeah, period. In fact, it is quite the opposite. Black culture is vast. It stretches longer than the Nile and is 4 times as deep. Black experiences and traditions are complex, varied, and striking. Black people carry more than just unimaginable pain. There's also joy, laughter, and swagger. Zora Neale Hurston once said, "Folklore is the arts of the people before they find out that there is any such thing as art." Indeed, for Black people, the oral tradition has always been a treasured art. It is widely known that the oral tradition predates the written word by thousands of years. For centuries, songs, stories, chants, and folklore were the primary tools used to remember and record African history. In the 1500s, many Africans were stolen from their homelands and transported to the Americas, where they were enslaved and stripped of their traditions. Many of these enslaved people were not permitted to learn to read or write. It is because of their stories that we know much of what they endured. Their first-hand accounts, folklore, fairy tales, and old wives' tales were preserved because the oral tradition traveled across the ocean and took root in the New World. Many truths about the horrors of chattel slavery in the United States would have been forgotten in the retelling of history if not for these stories African Americans passed down from generation to generation. African American folklore, fairy tales, and old wives' tales are an important piece of the puzzle when attempting to document African American history in the United States accurately. African American folklore is unique because it is constantly balancing African traditions experience with a Eurocentric environment, there is a duality to it that remembers and reinvents. Some traditions and thoughts stay firm, though. The importance of water, community, and animals as symbols is seen in both African and African American folklore. Conversely, only in African American folklore do we see the retelling of biblical tales and images of African Americans sprouting wings and flying across the Atlantic. Our goal with this anthology is to show it all: the devil at the crossroads, Orisha, hoodoo, pain, joy, frustration, community, and most of all, at the center of every folktale, a universal truth. Too often, Black narratives are called not literary because the magical aspects of them do not fit the Eurocentric mold for what is literary. Writers like Toni Morrison, Maya Angelou, Zora Neale Hurston, Lucille Clifton, and many more refuse to fit in the box made by Western society. Instead, they sawed out the box and went walking into open pastures of possibility. They would not be silenced, and magic made their words glitter on the page. What does a mermaid look like? If we simply relied on Eurocentric folklore and myth, which we usually do, a mermaid must have long flowing hair, pale skin, and giant blue eyes. Princesses are always locked away and need saving or protecting. These narratives never include Black folklore or African stories that are older than time. But Poemhood, Our Black Revival, invites young adults into this lush world of folklore and the Black experience. In this anthology, poets spanning generations lovingly reflect, inspect, comment, and retell many Black folktales. The poems remember and talk with the poems of those who came before, while offering fresh perspectives on current events. Poemhood, Our Black Revival, is a lush collection of stories and experiences, and of course, there are a few ghosts haunting the pages because, in Black culture, ancestors are ever present. Their strength and legacy guide us long after they are gone. Each poem will be accompanied by an outro which serves to provide additional information and context for the poem's historical positioning and/or its creation. So, I think I'm going to read, I'm going to read the intro. It's called Young Africans by Gwendolyn Brooks. Of the furious who take today and jerk it out of joint, have made new underpinnings in the head. Black time is time for chimeful poemhood, but they decree a jagged chiming now. If there are flowers, flowers must come out of the road, rowdy, knowing where wills and people are, knowing where whips and screams are, knowing where deaths are, and where the kind kills are. As for the other kind of kindness, if there is milk, it must be mindful. The milk of human kindness must be mindful, as Willie Wines must be fine fury, must be mega, must be main, talking today to jerk it out of joint. The hard, heroic maim, the leech-like as usual, who use, adhere to, carp and harm, and they await across the changes in the spiraling dead. Our Black revival, our Black vinegar, our hands, and our hot blood. So yeah, it just makes me think about how people are building entire organizations on Black labor, stolen Black labor, and exploiting Black struggle hood in a way that cultivates a false sense of hope, because there is no direction to go that doesn't lead back to white supremacy. And so one thing I read today with that kind of a methodology, let me be clear. Let me make it really clear. I read, this is like, first of all, never mind. This started chapter 2. Chapter 1 fell out. We finna have to put that back. It's been through a lot. And I'm using dried up acrylic paint as a bookmark right now. But I'm just grateful that I can focus and read again. Like, it's so much to learn. And it's like, everybody deserves a chance to be able to see their self outside of white supremacy. And for some of us, because of our identity, the only way we can do that is if we know how to read. Because there is no reality in the settlement where we are able to see ourselves and be ourselves outside of white supremacy. So yeah, I'm gonna read from this part of the book, which I didn't plan on reading from this part, but it's sticking out to me, and I think it's very accurate, and it relates to the discourse I was just having. So this book is called Night Vision. It's chapter 2, Realism of Race and Gender. Some of the Africans who were brought to America in chains were skilled in wood carving, weaving, construction, and other crafts. In the South, black slaves were not only field hands, many developed a variety of skills that were needed on a nearly self-sufficient plantation. Because skilled labor of whatever color was in great demand, slaves were often hired out to masters who owned shops by the day, month, or year for a stipulated amount. Some were hired out to shipmasters serving as pilots and managers of ferries. Others were used in the maritime trades as ship caulkers, long horsemen, and sailmakers. A large number of slaves were employed in northern cities as house servants, sailors, sailmakers, and carpenters. New York had a higher proportion of skilled slaves than any other colony. Coppers, tailors, bakers, tanners, goldsmiths, cabinet makers, shoemakers, and glaziers. I remember when I first read this, I didn't know what that meant, but I guess it's glaziers. I don't know. It's just a nigga that know how to make and work with, like, sculpt and craft glass, basically. So both in Charleston and in the northern cities, many artisans utilized slave labor extensively. Africans were the landless, propertyless, permanent workers of the U.S. empire. They were not just slaves. The African nation as a whole served as a proletariat for the Euro-American oppressor nation. This African colony supported on its shoulders the building of a Euro-American society, more prosperous, more egalitarian, and yes, more democratic than any in semi-feudal old Europe. The Jeffersonian vision of America as a pastoral European democracy was rooted in the national life of small, independent white landowners. Such a society had no place for a proletariat within its ranks, yet, in the age of capitalism, could not do without the labor of such a class. America imported a proletariat from Africa, a proletariat permanently chained in an internal colony, laboring for the benefit of all settlers. African workers might be individually owned, like tools and draft animals, by some settlers and not others, but in their colonial subjugation, they were, as a whole, owned by the entire Euro-American nation. But I want to put this into context. I'm like in the bed, hold on, because I'm tired. But I did write after reading this, so I'm going to find what I wrote. But before that, I'm going to put this into context when I'm talking about organizations that I built entirely on stolen black labor and how this is intentional. Not only is it intentional, but it's a systematic issue. And so, systemic issue. Ultimately, it's scientific. Like, I know I was a part of this org that extorts the fuck out of black people. Exploits the fuck out of black people. And extort too. Like, that's definitely present, but I'm not gonna really advocate for that just because them niggas got the same class interest and they are just in opposition with each other, but both of them's in opposition with me. So at the end of the day, because I don't have the same class interest, and so, or it's just the same character, like, these niggas is not like me, period. Period. So there's a few videos at this point on my channel that could help embody the essence of this video. But to name two, Art and Revolution, parts 1 and part 2, really, I guess, describes the essence of, like, the poem Hood, Our Black Revival. The introduction that I read and that first poem that I read, where, like, yeah, Black art and Black literacy, it never really gets its flowers. And it's because people don't want to understand us. Not only do people not want to understand us, but people be mad when we understand them because they can't understand us. And so, and they can't understand themselves, and it's because they operate out of white supremacy. And the more you know about that, the more you know, nigga, life's a gamble. These niggas is gambling. But yeah, it's talking about white landowners. And so I was a part of this organization that was founded and ran by a white landowner. And the basis of the organization is to organize tenants in a way that liberates them in order to win a fair lease contract. And so I know what you're thinking. Why would a white man that own land have an interest in liberating niggas that don't? The white man in question has never won a contract. So let that be your answer. Boom. So with that being said, when we looking at what they talking about in night vision, we understand how the laborers are descendants of slaves. The laborers are new African people. The laborers is me, and it might be you on the other side of the screen. Hopefully, that's where my videos find themselves. But ultimately, this here internet is a system in itself. So, saying that to say, we can take from this that we are very skilled people, clearly. And we very capable of not only self-governing, but sustaining entire empires with our militancy, with our perception, with our persistence, with our precision. And with our minds. The fuck? And so, if a motherfucker that's not our, O-U-R, is not us, even when the motherfucker is our and us, and they are trying to get in the way of a nigga experiencing, like in this book, a black revival, you feel me, where it's history and present day poems, same shit, different day. You feel me? Same pain, different name. But it's people out here, because they can't read, they don't know that other people are experiencing that pain. But like the book said, you know, we are not just in pain. We have joy too. And so if you don't know somebody else shares your pain with you, you don't even have joy, for facts. If you can't understand the lowest part of the highest emotion, I guess, you don't make it to the highest emotion. You ain't experienced it, or you ain't been able to recognize when that is the experience. And then there's the other side to that, where we go low, and then it's like, well, how low can you go? And that's when you don't want to learn how to read. You're okay with not being able to read, and you don't want to learn how to do it. But I know the white supremacist organization that I walked away from didn't honor that. And that's why I walked away from it. Because here we have niggas that's suffering the lowest lows you could fathom. And somewhere within that suffering, there's a revival that has the potential to happen, because there is a desire and there is a hope to be able to read, to be able to see that, nigga, you are not alone. And if you are trying to organize people and you want them to hope, desire, and see that they are not alone, you might gotta teach a nigga how to read. Instead of then growing horns in a tail, showing your horns in the tail, because you've been born with them, because that's who you are. Instead of then showing your horns and tail and defending all of this old weird extra shit because you're a white supremacist. Like, nigga, all you have to do is say, I'm a fuck nigga white supremacist, and I don't want these niggas free. I want these accolades and all of this shit for me. That's all you had to say. You could have been, nigga, you need to start every meeting out with that. That's how you need to ground this. That need to be your community agreements. Huh. Okay. So with that being said, I know this makes sense to somebody, and I know it makes sense to people it's gonna hurt to see themselves in that light. But you gotta see yourself for what you are, and you a fuck nigga. And so, boom, in relation to what I wrote, there's some questions I want all my niggas to ask themselves. You ain't even gotta know how to read to be able to ask yourself something like this. You feel me? I'm finna find it. Don't worry about it. I'm finna find it. I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer. What do you love most about you? You feel me? And what does your heart require to be connected? What is your earliest experience of disappointment, shame, guilt, or fear? Who are you outside of white supremacy? Who could you become without your allegiance to capital? What would your leisure time consist of? How would you measure, feel, and interact with love? And so, yeah, if you feel compelled to share any answers to any of these questions in the comment section, please do. Write the answers as simple as you can on some Dr. Seuss. Like Dr. Seuss is one, yeah, on some, you feel me? So everybody has access to understanding, honoring your Black experience, and seeing themselves reflected within that. So no think pieces in the comment section unless it's one fish, blue fish writing style, please. And this is not to reduce anybody's literacy. This is to share it. To share it with each other. Yeah, because that's revival. And hell yeah. Long live my niggas. I got my brother's jacket on. I'm just laying in the bed. I've been reading. And yeah. I'll holler at you. Like this video, the fuck. I really want you to comment before anything else, to be honest with you. I want to know the answers to questions. I want to know what you heard me read. Yeah. And if there becomes a demand for like having access to these questions, or if you want to do what I do with an entire group of people where we ask and answer these questions with each other as we have been reading Night Vision, I can make a PDF version of, I call them gut books. And so, yeah, this is the heart chakra gut book for camaraderie. And so, yeah, if there's a demand for that, for chapters 1 through 3, I've written questions based on the reading, Night Vision. All right, I'm really sleepy, and I'm finna go to bed.